Welcome to the Suwannee County Board of County Commissioner meeting for May 2nd, 2023. At this time, I'd like to get Commissioner Perkins to do the invocation and Commissioner Motley to do the pledge. If you all stand.
Yes, pray. God, our Father, creator of heaven and earth. Father, we come now, dear God, thankful and grateful for how you blessed us and kept us. Keep us and span us, dear God, in these troubled times. We thank you, God, for the opportunity you've given to us, oh God, to be here on your green earth. God, that you continue to watch upon us, dear God, each and every day, oh God. Watch over our families, keep them, oh God, safe. And God, continue to watch upon our children, dear God, that go to and from school. Protect them at the school, dear God. Look on, dear God, all of our first responders, God, every department, dear Father God. And God, and bless this board in a mighty way, dear God. Give us the wisdom and knowledge and understanding, dear God, to handle the problem that come before this board and be able to handle them in the discreet manner, dear God, in the way you have us to handle them. And Father, we thank you, dear God, for all that you have blessed us with through the funding, dear God, to complete projects, dear God. We thank you for the projects. We thank you for those that give us opportunity, dear God, to bring goodness to our people here, dear God. They have better life, dear God, through their efforts, dear God. We thank you for it. And God, we continue to look upon us, dear God. We shall give you the thanks and the praise. In Christ that we pray. Amen. Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to item number 1, approval of and authorize chairman to execute contract for legal services with the law firm Sellers, Taylor & Morrison, PA. And I think all of you's got a copy of the contract in front of you.
Yes, sir.
Is there any discussion or a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Land.
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Mobley. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. So for all of y'all that hadn't met him yet, this is Adam Morrison. This will be the new county attorney. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Item number 2, approval of minutes for the April 18th, 2023 special called meeting and the April 18th, 2023 regular board meeting. Any discussion or a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Perkins,
Second.
second by Commissioner Land. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Hill.
before we get too far going, and I did speak to Mr. Adam there, and Mr. Scott, I don't know, has there been any discussion amongst all you guys? I know Adam said that maybe he has about having Pravat do the transition with him on the job. We got the things in place and how long that might take and what that would look like and all that.
Yeah, Mr. Pratt and I spoke last Wednesday. I sent him an email Thursday about the transition. Basically, the way the transition would work, the way my opinion is if Mr. Pratt needed to wrap anything up or could wrap up anything quickly, he can go ahead and do that. Moving forward after tonight, then Mr. Morrison will coordinate with him on wrapping up what he needs to, getting what information he needs from Mr. Pratt, and then the two of them will be coordinating how we proceed.
If I may add, and I would just ask one thing of the members of the board to aid in the transition process, because quite frankly, I don't know what I don't know in terms of what has been going on or what some of the legal processes have been or what may be pending or behind. And so one of the things that Mr. Scott asked Mr. Pravat to prepare is a list on his own behalf of here's what's pending that needs to be taken care of and moved forward. If there's any in particular items that you all have of this is something that we're waiting on or looking for, you can either send that directly to me or send it directly to Mr. Scott. And I would ask that you guys do that sooner rather than later, so that way when I go to for lack of a better phrase, that transition meeting with Mr. Pravat. My intent is to have an itemized list and say, we need to know where we're at on these 25 things, and that would make that as productive as possible.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
You good, Nolan?
I had a question, Mr.
Commissioner
Chairman.
Lamb?
Is there I mean, I know that we're out of contract now with Mr. Pravat. Is there a fee for the transition period, or a set fee that y'all have discussed for his time, or?
We haven't discussed. My assumption would be he would be continuing on at the hourly rate with the county, but I can't swear to that.
Right. It would be an hourly rate from the conversation Mr. Vet and I had. It'd be different than what it was before when he was under contract with the county. In the contract you have with Mr. Morrison, at his discretion, and he will keep us posted on bringing another attorney in if we needs to. Same way with this situation. Mr. Morrison will be the point of contact to coordinate with Mr. Pravat to see if he wanted to assign him any of the tasks he's working on now, or take that and run with it on his own. There's a few things. I know that Shannon gave Mr. Pravat something today on a lease to review, so we're trying to let him finish up a few little things as we move forward.
Commissioner Lamb, you good?
Yes, sir. I'm good.
I guess on the heels of that, are we good with it being a case-to-case, or put a time limit on it, like for a one set fee? I'm just trying to think what's going to be in the best interest.
Well, it'll be based on an hourly rate, and if Mr. Morrison sees that Project B needs Mr. Pravat's special expertise, certainly he's going to say, Mr. Pravat, will you finish this up, and then monitor that action.
All right.
Good. We're going to have to skip the consent agenda and move to the time-specific items. Item number 18 at 5:35 or soon thereafter, as the matter can be heard, hold the second of two public hearings to consider the adoption of an ordinance regarding LDR 23-02, an application by the Board of County Commissioners to amend the text of the Land Development Regulations by deleting Section 4.14.5, Number 2, special exceptions, travel trailer parks or campgrounds, and adding Section 4.14.5B. Item number 3, RV parks or campgrounds. Item number 4, other uses that may be compatible with the district as a special permit in the commercial highway interchange zoning district, deleting Section 4.4.5A, and then number 7, special exceptions, travel trailer parks or campgrounds, and adding 4.4.5B. RV parks and campgrounds, other uses that may be compatible with the district as a special permit, changing the title of Section 4.19.24 from travel trailer parks or campgrounds to RV parks and campgrounds, and adding criteria for such. Mr. Meeks. Well, before we get there, Mr. Attorney, will you swear in anybody that wants to testify?
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Anyone else thinking they want to speak on this, so we can swear you in at this time? Seeing none, Mr. Meeks.
Mr. Chairman, again, I apologize for the wordiness of the agenda item, but this would be the adoption hearing for the LDR text amendment 23-02. The first meeting we had before the Board of County Commissioners was an opportunity for public concern and comment regarding that. We did detail the amendment with the commission. If there's anything that you would like for me to go over or re-review that proposed text changes, I'll be happy to do so. If not, we have an ordinance that Eric has a copy of that would be the adoption of that amendment.
Any questions of staff?
If the board has no questions of me, then I would just enter the file into the record.
Thank you. Mr. Attorney, will you take Mr. Meeks's into?
Take that into exhibit.
You'll take the exhibit in as Exhibit A.
Yeah, well, I'm admitted as Exhibit A, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I wasn't understanding, didn't hear.
Or 1, or whatever you choose.
Any questions of the staff? And to the staff?
No, I I just, one quick thing, on those interchanges we're talking about, is there anything in there for, as that grows or those that span, would this just follow suit with that as far as?
The highway interchanges, as far as the RV parks and campgrounds, it does not limit them in the highway interchange. The mileage separation that we have between the RV park campground boundaries applies to the agricultural zoning district.
Right.
Specifically going back with the district intent for commercial highway interchange, specifically calls out catering to the traveling public. That's why we do not limit that in that highway interchange, and because it would be a special permit, it would be on a case-by-case situation that comes to this commission for that special permit approval.
We'll make sure of that. Thank you.
It also has no effect on any expansion of any existing. They
Existing
would
ones
still
in that
come
area.
before the board at the same process, but amend their previously approved site plan.
Gotcha. Perfect.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I will open the floor to public comment. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Is there any further board discussion? Seeing none, do we have a motion to adopt the ordinance?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Land. Second by Commissioner Mobley. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. This time we'll close this public hearing. Item number 19, at 5:35 PM or soon thereafter, as the matter can be heard, hold the first of two public hearings regarding LDR 23-03, an application by the Board of County Commissioners to amend Section 5.24 of the Land Development Regulations regarding the use of subdivided lots when a property is reduced in size due to a government taking. Mr. Meekins.
Mr. Chairman, board members, this would be the first of two public hearings required for this proposed text amendment, LDR 23-03. Section 5.24 of the Land Development Regulations deals with the use of subdivided lots. Just kind of touching briefly, the way that is currently worded is it says the proposed use of lots within any subdivision shall comply with those uses permitted by the comprehensive plan and these land development regulations. Further, whenever any land in the unincorporated area of the county is subdivided, the building permit for the construction of a residence, commercial building, or other principal structure shall not be issued for any such structure on less than a lot as platted within such subdivided land. So what this has come up with in the past, and we've discussed it, a lot of you familiar with the project, the bridge project on 180th Street. The location of that bridge adjoins a platted subdivision, and of no choice of those owners that are located there had to give up property for additional right-of-way that had to be secured for that bridge replacement on 180th. Amending this language would not prohibit the issuance of a building permit due to that government taking for that right-of-way. Another issue that comes to mind that we've had some discussions and some projects moving forward in the future is the possible expansion of 169th Road, which is near the Cadla site. As most of you know, there's platted subdivisions that lie on the east and west side of 169th Road, and any expansion or acquisition of right-of-way is going to cause a reduction at a minimum, to a minimum of the front of those lots that are on 169th Road. So this is some proposed language that we have that would take care of that and not put the people in a situation where they may have to go before the Board of Adjustment to try to seek a variance or something for that permit to be issued. Variances, as we know, are not guaranteed things. They do require public hearing, and anyone that's looking to sell their property, if their property has been reduced in size due to a government taking, has to disclose that to that potential buyer, so that could affect that sale. So just putting this accept language in there, we see as a solution to that, we don't want to put it's not there to promote people to subdivide lots, but when it's of no action of their own and it's due to a government taking with a right-of-way, then I think we should put some type of exception language in there. So as I said before, this would be the first of 2 proposed public hearings regarding this. This does offer an opportunity for the public to speak. Does not require any action of the board tonight unless you have some proposed recommended changes you want to see on the adoption side. We would enter the file into the record at this time. If you don't have any questions, offer the public to, if anyone has any questions, we'll try to answer that, and we would come back before the commission for an adoption of this proposed language at their next meeting.
Does that, like a non-conforming lot, does that cover that as well? If you had the eminent domain and took some of their land away and it made their lot a non-conforming lot, does this cover that as well?
It does not, because this specific section deals with subdivided lots.
Okay.
This strictly restricts the alteration of a platted lot, because you have a record plat that you have to go by. In a situation where you have a non-conforming property that is not part of a subdivision, we already do not penalize people for a reduction for right-of-way acquisition.
Okay.
This language here just specifically did not have any leniency at all for a reduction of a size of a platted lot. It had to stay the way it was platted.
Understood. Is there any other questions of Mr. Meeks or for me?
No, sir. I mean, I think it's just common sense. I mean, you can't force someone into a position that wasn't no fault of their own.
Do you want to enter that into the record?
Yes, sir, I would enter the file into the record at this point.
Thank you.
Admitted as Exhibit 1.
And this time I'll open the floor to public comment, and anyone having anything to say on this matter? Seeing none, I will close public comment. Is there any other board discussion? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Meeks.
Mr. Chairman. We'll bring it back to the board at a later date.
Moving on to the consent agenda, I have item number 7 being pulled for discussion. Is there any other items from any other commissioners?
None.
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, can we pull number 15?
Any others? Seeing none, get a motion to approve items 3 through 6, 8 through 14, and 16 and 17. Is there any discussion or a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hale,
Second.
second by Commissioner Land. Any further comment? Seeing none, all in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 7, approval of changes to purchasing policy and adoption of an enabling resolution. Mr. Scott.
Mr. Chairman and board, and for the public, just wanted to kind of go through the intent, what we're trying to do with the modifications of the purchasing policies. Basically, is to modify the spending so that supervisory staff can actually do the job out there in the field. One, be similar to what other agencies, like the City of Live Oak, for example, has a higher spending limits than what the county does, so does the town of Brantford. Just get them in compliant or similar to what the other agencies have around us. The other thing is to streamline the services for the public and the work we have to do. For example, right now our spending limits are $15,000. We have to bid anything after over $15,000. The way the process works, we come to you and ask permission to bid. We go back and run the advertisement for 2 to 4 weeks or longer, depending on what we're doing. We get bids in, then we open the bids, compile the information, put it on the next agenda, and then so we're looking at 2 months out to get anything done for something over $15,000. So the idea is to streamline the process. As you recall, or in your packets you receive every month, any bill over $10,000 is listed in your vendor report, so you can see anything that we spend over that. I know that there was some concerns, on fixed assets. We wanted to raise that some so that some of the smaller items, aren't on the list. We're okay with modifying that back to leaving that where it was if we need to. We had two categories of spending authority, budgeted and non-budgeted. Sometimes things come up, you need to buy things, something breaks, and you got to fix things. If we need to just leave it on the budget items, we can certainly do that also. It's really your choice, if you can just share your thoughts as we go. The other thing was on change orders. It's always been a hot topic for a while, but have the authority for the administrator to go to approve anything over 5,000, let department heads, or 5 to 10,000, let department heads make the choices on that, because they're close to the situation for 5,000 or below. Anything over 10,000 or and $1, then we bring it to the board for consideration. And if we need to modify those numbers, we certainly can. Another concern I heard of was the procurement of professional services. We like following our statutes, and that's what that is, and that provision is following the statute and how to procure the professional services, make sure we do it correctly. If you've got any other concerns we need to address, what I'd like to do, Mr. Chairman, unless you choose to move forward tonight, is to go back and tweak a few things in the proposed changes, and then come back and bring it to you in a clean version the next meeting. Again, if the board has any other concerns or ideas that they want us to address, certainly share with us, and we'll be glad to make those changes.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Land.
I have met with Mr. Scott about this and addressed some of these concerns were mine. Some of these obviously are others, but I would agree with Mr. Scott. I mean, if we're going to change the policy, I mean, it's no disrespect to this board or to our current staff or administration, but changing policy could potentially affect boards and staff members for years to come. So I also would like to maybe pump the brakes on this and just table it, and let's spend some time maybe getting these numbers right. Not that they're wrong now, but just spend a little more time on it. We've all been busy last week in Tallahassee and here and there, and if we could take another couple weeks so we could maybe iron out some of these concerns and then bring it back, I'm on board with that.
I'd agree with that.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, I'm like Commissioner Lamb, and I understand what Mr. Scott's saying. I want to streamline some of these projects and not, a dime hold up a dollar, so to speak, but there are, and it's not that we don't trust anybody. I'm not saying that, but I mean, just these numbers are large numbers, larger than I've seen since I've been here. So.
Right. Mr. Chairman, let me add just one other thing, just as an example. And I'm not trying to sway the board. I mean, certainly it's y'all's call, and we're here to work for y'all. Years ago, when we built the Sportsplex, 30 years ago, I came to the board at that time and asked could we waive the formal bidding process and get quotes instead of bids. We probably saved 25% on many things, fencing, lighting, other things, because we went that route. When we bid smaller things, it costs us more money, because the process to bid, the person who's bidding is going to raise prices sometimes because it takes their man hours and staff time in order to do the process. Just keep that in the back of your mind as we move forward. We want to be good stewards. I pay taxes here too. I've been doing it for a long time. So I want to make sure that we're doing it right for the citizens. That's who we work for ultimately, and we'll make sure we're transparent. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Any other commissioners? Is it the pleasure of the commission to table this and bring it back at another meeting, or vote on it as is?
I'm in favor of tabling.
Do we need a motion for that, or does it just consent?
It's consensus, I believe.
Okay. So do I have consensus of the board to bring this back at a future meeting?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to also waive doing it tonight for to a later date. Mr. Scott and I have talked pretty lengthy today about some of this stuff too, and so I'd like to wait also to be able to digest some of this language in here.
Well, it sounds unanimous. We'll just bring it back.
Mm-hmm.
Item number 15, award request for proposals to Ring Power Corporation for 6 CAT 120 motor graders. Mr. Land.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, this isn't, I just pulled this really for just clarification for the public, because I know that on our last motor grader purchase, it seemed to be consensus of staff was, well, the 140s were preferred. After talking to Mr. Scott, the reason that staff is going with the 120s on these is the 140s are, I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Scott, but the 140s are great for the construction crews and where we're doing a lot of work, but for the actual road grading, especially on some of the smaller roads, particularly Dallin Park, it's hard to maneuver those bigger, heavier graders. So having an array of those is preferred, and hence the reason we're going with 120s this time instead of the 140s. Right. Is that right?
And the smaller ones seem to be a little bit more reliable and still good equipment, but we will make sure they're rolling and grading roads and not waiting for somebody to come and fix them.
That's all that I wanted really just to point out for the public.
And I've talked to some of them as well. Some of them like the 140s, some were happy with the 120s, so.
We have a mixture now.
Yeah.
Does the new 120s have the differential locks like the 140s did?
I don't know.
I'd heard they'd upgrade them, but I don't know.
Not sure.
Is the Ring Power guy here?
I don't see it.
Here he is.
Yeah, is he here?
Does
There he is hiding
I'm
back
sorry,
there.
he's back. Does the 120s, the newer version of these here, do they have the same differential locking capabilities as the 140s did? I think that was something we discussed one time before. They do?
They do.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so I'm good with the proposal. I just wanted to discuss that for public concern.
Is there any other discussion on item number 15?
No, sir.
Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Land. Second by Commissioner Mobley. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to proclamations and presentations, Mr. Norris.
Good evening. How is everybody?
Good, sir. How are you?
Good. I'm wonderful. I wanted to introduce some folks with us tonight that are going to make a presentation, and I'm going to, if you'll allow me a second, I want to, before Ms. Sarah Beth gets started, the chairman, Chris, and myself attended. It's a next level event, which is put on by Duke Energy, and we've attended several of those events. And what they are, they're educational, they're training sessions, and they do a lot of helping us learn about economic development and what happens in North Florida as well as the whole state of Florida. So through this event that we attended, that Miss Mary certainly was a part of, we were able to meet Sarah Beth here. And so if it's okay, I'd like for Miss Mary to come up and just tell you a tick about what Duke Energy's doing to help us and how we kind of evolved to getting Sarah Beth here. Miss Mary?
Thank y'all. I'm Mary Swope, and I am the industrial recruitment manager, basically for North Florida. We've had a little change, but so I cover from Bay County all the way to Hamilton County down to Levy County. So what we consider in Duke our North Florida territory. And North Florida has truly become an emphasis with Duke. We realize that, I even hate saying the word rural communities and rural counties, but we realize in North Florida, this is, you're both a part of the Rayos and so forth, that, economic development is going to look different than what it may look like in South Florida. So instead of always looking at the typical industrial, going after a manufacturer, going after a large employer, is maybe we step back, and Mississippi has done this in their South Mississippi with Mississippi Power and Light have done this, looking at retail and commercial development as a part of economic development. And I give this one little example and I laugh because it's in one of my counties in Gulf County. If y'all been through Weehawken, they've got a brand new Burger King. Well, does that sound very exciting? Maybe not, but to Weehawken, and that provided 40 new jobs. in that community, provided a small tax base in that area. And if you travel down to Port St. Joe, it also gives you a place to stop and grab a burger or a Coke. So it is something new. That's considered economic development. How do we help our communities, our counties grow and develop as a part of quality of life, a quality of place? Then they're even more prepared when we start attracting those 50 to 100 jobs, employers with 50 or more. Or how do we look at that? So that's what we wanted to do at Duke. So we brought in retail strategies, which Sarah's going to talk briefly to you about. And how do we do this? How do we help our counties look at what they've already got in place? How can they strengthen it? So it's not a plan to come in here and take away what you already have in place. It's maybe how do we do a comprehensive plan and look at it? What's our strategy? And how do we make it work that it's proved successful for Suwannee County? So I work with Jimmy closely on economic development, but now we're also looking at commercial. We are providing some grants through our Economic Development Foundation, which I know that they're applying for to help pay for this. So I appreciate it and look forward to working with you guys even more on how do we grow Suwannee County. So thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Mary.
And that's a piece I didn't touch on, but Ms. Mary did. Duke is offering grants to actually help us be able to go out and find these resources like Retail Strategy and Sarah Beth here. So we appreciate what they're doing to support us. And I know also on the south end, Duke just opened up a brand new solar farm. So and they've helped us out with some grants down there on the trail. We're working on the extension across the river to connect Columbia County, and so it's all good stuff, right?
You got to look at Jason, not me.
Mr. Furry, we're working on that extension. I apologize, sir. You're doing a fine job. I'll be back because I got some more stuff to talk about him when they get through. But I want to bring Sarah Beth up real quick. She's going to tell you all about it. Don't beat her up too bad, and we get extra points on our application if y'all pay attention.
Thank you.
Welcome, Sarah Beth.
Thank you so much. That was a fantastic introduction. I don't usually. Okay. Perfect. You don't get that big of an introduction. So I am honored to be able to talk with you all today about what Retail Strategies is doing within the state of Florida and what we would like to do here in Suwannee County. So again, I am Sarah Beth Stewart. I am with Retail Strategies. I've been with the company for over 5 years and been in the state of Florida for that entire time. I'm technically a part-time resident in Florida. Home base is Birmingham, Alabama, but my husband actually has construction projects throughout the state and currently in Live Oak. So very familiar with the city and the county, so I'm really excited to be here with you. So again, I am with Retail Strategies. My company has over 150 years of collective retail real estate experience. We were actually born out of a commercial real estate firm. And the story basically goes, we were trying to build a pretty unique Home Depot prototype in a rural community, Sylacauga, Alabama, if you're familiar with it. Walked into the mayor's office and he pulled out some dusty, outdated data. And that was our aha moment. This is what you have for us? So that was our moment. We realized there's a missing link between commercial real estate and municipalities. So we formed Retail Strategies to act as the extension of city and county staff to proactively recruit the right retail for your community. So the brands that you see on the screen is a very brief list of brands that we've worked with. We also have very unique partnerships with ICMA, ICSC, National League of Cities, Main Street America, and many, many other entities. So the first part of our process is really understanding who your community is from a data perspective. We spend the first 30 days of our partnership really drilling into who are you? Who are your consumers, not just your constituents, who might be coming in and out of the area? Where do they shop? What are they willing to spend their money on? From there, we utilize mobile data analytics. So if you have a smartphone, you've probably enabled location services, which is kind of creepy. It's kind of tracking where you're coming and going from. We can talk at the end to turn that feature off. I can do a tutorial because it is Big Brother, but it's also gathering information that we can then uncover who are these consumers. Who does live in town? Where do they work? What are they willing to spend their money on? So on the screen right here, it is showing you a trade area. So the amount of consumers coming in and out of the area is roughly 63,000 people. Vastly different from what your city and your county boundaries are. Retailers don't look at city and county boundaries. They're looking at radiuses, drive times, and mobile data analytics to track those types of consumers to know where they can make money for their business. From there, I can tell you how much money is being spent on apples or socks in your community. I pulled this retail leakage, which is basically the supply versus the demand. And I pulled these specific categories because these are types of brands of retailers that are currently expanding in North Florida. So grocery is about $47 million leaving your community to shops elsewhere. So if you drive into another community to get your groceries or to Walmart or wherever that might be, you're spending dollars elsewhere. We want to spend those dollars locally and grow the tax base. Other categories include food services, so that's going to be your restaurants, whether it's a fast food chain, a sit-down restaurant, or even a bar or drinking place. Home and garden is also a big category for growth for your community. How many of us did a home improvement project during the pandemic? We all did. So that was a huge category that saw a lot of growth during the pandemic, and it's an opportunity for your city to keep those dollars local. And then last but not least, another category is your health and personal care. Retail really is much bigger than just grocery and restaurants. Entertainment concepts, sporting goods, and healthcare also falls into what we call retail. So there's an opportunity to recruit more healthcare type of brands to the community. Now, all that data is great, and we can spend hours upon hours nerding out on information that we can pull. It's crazy what the amount of information that is out there and that we have access to. But truthfully, what moves the needle in a commercial real estate transaction is the real estate. So we actually send a team of commercial real estate professionals to your community to look at your real estate assets. We're going to be driving through the market, looking at different sites, whether they are vacant pieces of land, current shopping centers, maybe there's a parcel outside of the shopping center, really understanding those different sites and looking for home run sites. So what makes a home run site? We're going to be looking at the visibility of the site, the parking, the co-tenancy. For example, if you see Walmart, it's usually next to a Home Depot and a Lowe's. They all three carry basically the same home and garden equipment. So why are they all together? It's because they work together. They feed off of each other. Same thing you'll see a Burger King and a McDonald's across the street from each other. They feed off of each other. We're also going to be looking at traffic patterns, knowing which side of the road most people are traveling into work and traveling home. We know that each different retailer has a specific site selection criteria. For example, coffee users want to be on the AM side of the road, meaning the side of the road that most people travel into work, whereas grocery stores want to be on the PM side of the road when you come home, pick up your groceries. We also want a one right turn in, one right turn out. We don't have to sit and wait at a light. So that's part of the puzzle of looking at these real estate assets. From there, we're going to catalog them into our site. This is actually one of our client communities, Irondale, Alabama. As you can see, the little green dots is the specific sites that we were looking at. From there, we're going to understand who the property owner is, how much square footage is available, what are they willing to do with their property, are they selling, the ground leasing, whatever that might be. From there, we're going to put together a retail recruitment plan. So based off of your demographics, based off your real estate assets, and then based off what's actually happening in retail right now, because it's drastically changed in 10 years, it's drastically changed in 3 years, in the last 2 weeks, and will continue to change as our economy changes and as we, as consumers, dictate how we want to get our goods and services. So once that retail recruitment plan is developed, we get it to present it to your leaders, and you guys get to say, yes, we like all of those retail brands. Or you might say, hey, Sarah Beth, we've got some really great local pizza joints in town. We don't really want to recruit any more pizza joints. Okay, great. We'll take those off of our list and replace them with prospects that make sense for your community based off your needs and wants. There's also a marketing guide included. We utilize that in all of our prospecting, as well as what you can have locally, put on your website and whatnot. So this is where we sit. Once we've developed that plan, had it approved, this is not going to sit on the shelf and just look pretty. We're here to actually implement it. So the retail strategies team will start calling on the brokers, the developers, retailers, tenant reps, whoever's going to have a seat at the table and convincing them they should move their next store to Suwannee County. And then we get to report back to you on what is said. The good, the bad, the ugly. If it's a yes, great. What's the next steps? If it's a no, why is it a no? What can we do to maybe change it to a yes? Or maybe it's a not right now. But at least we know why we might not be getting certain stores or brands that you all want, or why others are coming when you don't really want those. So we act as the extension of the economic development staff to proactively recruit those retailers. And this is the team that gets to do it for you. So of course you get me, always. I am backed by Alex Edwards, who is the portfolio director for the state of Florida. She works hand in hand with all of our client communities, making sure you're up to date on what's happening. And Drew Kaufman is our retail recruiter for the state. He actually came from Books A Million, so he's brokered deals, he's worked for retailers, he gets it, he understands what's happening across the country and in the state of Florida. He's got connections, and that's what he brings to the table. They're also backed by Clay Kraft, who was actually the portfolio director for the state of Florida prior to Alex coming on board. So if you know anything about Lake City, he helped really develop Lake City. I'll put a case study at the end to talk about that, but he's been working in the state of Florida for longer than I've been at Retail Strategies. So he's also backed by Lacey Beasley, which I do want to mention because she sits on the board of trustees for ICSC. So ICSC is actually the largest retail real estate networking organization of all time. Anybody and everybody associated with retail real estate is a member of this organization. There's conferences across the country, including one in Orlando. The big Mama Jamma, the Super Bowl of all retail trade shows, is actually in Vegas here at the end of the month. Our entire team will attend those conferences, representing our client communities, getting feedback, and then reporting back to what is said. So as I mentioned, Lacey Beasley sits on the board of directors, or board of trustees for ICSC. She is one of 2 representatives that are there to represent communities. So she's there telling the CEO of Target and Walgreens and these other brands, you should think about public-private partnerships. You should look at rural communities. You should look at your strategies for just being beyond Jacksonville or Orlando. So she really has a voice in that room and also can hear what's happening on that national level, reporting back to our local communities on what is happening. So I know I talk really fast and I gave out a lot of information. So what questions do you have?
Anybody? I sat through this already, so I already know all about it.
What does it cost? Well, I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Mr. Hale.
I hear what you're saying, but I know a lot of these companies you're talking about, they have teams that
Correct.
search out us as well. Do they not hire you guys to do the same thing for them?
They do have their own real estate team, ops team. Every retailer has a tenant representation or somebody of that sort that is looking for these opportunities. But there's 19,000 communities across this country, and even more sites that they have to sort through and look at. And to be honest, some of them are here to find the path of least resistance. They're not paid more to find the perfect site in Suwannee County. If their buddy doesn't know about it or if they don't know about it, they're just going to do the path, again, of least resistance. Our job is to take communities that typically get overlooked, put them at the front of the line because we have connections and relationships with those individuals. We've done that across the country and in the state of Florida, so we can say, hey, you remember that deal we did in any city that we've worked with? There's another site, fits all of your site selection criteria. They know we've vetted that site, so it fits their needs, so it's a home run for them. We also don't take any commission from any deal we broker because we're not here to do what's best for that retail brand. We're here to do what's best for Suwannee County. So that could be a local landowner might say, hey, I'm going to take the first prospect that comes in. Well, it might be another dollar store, and maybe you guys don't want any more dollar stores. Or a nail salon, or something that's maybe not what you are hoping to gain in your community that's going to add value. The property owner is typically going to try to get a lease and be done with it. We're here to make sure that that person gets a quality tenant that's going to stay, then they're going to increase their property tax and property value.
Can you say anything about what you did for Columbia County or what y'all might have done when you worked for them?
Yes, absolutely. So Lake City was actually one of our first partnerships in the state. We partnered with them for well over 10 years. Typically our partnerships, we ask for a 3-year commitment, and they kept extending it and extending it. So we had a lot of success. So as you can see, these are a couple of the brands that we recruited to Lake City. So over the last 10 years, if you've seen that corridor really blow up, that's because of what Retail Strategies brought in. Again, quality tenants that they wanted to have in their community. And I'm sure many of you drive in to go to the Chili's or the Ross or some of these other brands. And then, of course, it relates back to sales tax and jobs.
Anybody else?
So you were saying, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Commissioner Perkins.
so you're saying that if whatever we desire to have to come in, then you will research those businesses to bring in? Those businesses are basically like fast food. What are other type businesses you bring in?
Oh, all types of businesses. We've done grocery. We worked with Publix. We've done, there's several others here. Aldi is also grocery, Hobby Lobby, Dunkin' Donuts. We worked with several different brands. And I think I actually have one. Okay, so here's some of the other brands that we've recruited to our other client communities within the state. We've done well over 60 brands in the state, bringing these businesses in. And again, retail is vastly changing. It's different, it's expanded, it's contracted. So what are those brands that are going to continue to stay open? Grocery and restaurants, you're always going to have to get those goods and services pretty locally. Online sales has changed the way we get our shoes or our clothing, but you still need to get some shoes at the end of the day. You need to go get soccer cleats for your kids. Well, let's go to the academy or whatever, Hibbett Sports or whatever that brand is. So we want to try to bring those brands that are expanding to the region so you can have those.
So how successful you been at getting those businesses to come in? Like maybe they look at Suwannee County where there's a little rural area, we want to bring that business in. We may want like the women like to get shoes. We may want to get a shoe store. To be able to locate a shoe store to be able to come here. How successful y'all been? I know like Lake City is growing. I mean, they're growing to leaps and bounds. So apparently y'all been doing pretty good over there.
Yeah.
But now here at Suwannee County, we're a little bit
It is
slower.
different. Yeah, a little bit different community. That's why we really spend the first 30 days trying to understand who your consumers are and what would be a good fit.
There
What
we
we
go.
do in Lake City may not be a good fit for what we do here, or even what we do in Madison County or any other community that we work with in the state. You guys are unique to you, so we want to make sure that we're getting brands that you want that are going to succeed.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Land?
if you can get me one of them trampoline parks so I don't have to drive to Gainesville and Valdosta every birthday party in 10 years, I'll be good.
Chuck E. Cheese on there?
I don't think we've done a Chuck E. Cheese, but
You can-
we could track it down.
You could actually scratch the sports clips and great clips for me. I don't.
I just want a trampoline park.
That's good.
But one thing to think about, I agree. I've been and looked at it, and it just makes a lot of sense to me that if they bring one thing, an Aldi or whatever that they happen to bring and get them located here, I don't think what you're going to pay them, especially less the grants, is going to really be anything it's going to
I mean,
be.
sales tax in the first year will cover the,
Well, and Mr. Chairman, I'll ask you, if one comes, do you typically see a follow?
Typically. So as I mentioned earlier, each retailer has a tenant rep. Most of the time, those tenant reps represent 3, 4, 5, 10 brands. So they might represent Chipotle and AT&T and Starbucks or something like that. They see that it's pretty easy to do business in Suwannee County. They have a successful brand that works, makes a lot of money. They're like, hey, we're onto something. So then the trickle effect comes in. They usually tell their buddies. We then tell their buddies too, like, hey, this is working really well. This store is doing much better than expected. Again, what's it going to do to get you here? And retail is a ladder. So you start with your Dollar Generals and your McDonald's, and you continue to build upon those brands as your community grows and as retail changes. So that's what we're here to do. We're not just going to stop with bringing in one retail. We're here to continue growing it and building upon what is here.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Perkins?
It sounds good, and I think that'll be a big help to our development authority. It seems like that'll be another leg for him to support, like add another person in the office with him and Carissa to get some things done for the county.
Yeah, I actually would love to actually mention this success story in Cookeville, Tennessee. For a while, they were not focused on retail. They were, traditional economic development, industry, manufacturing. And they were entertaining a specific CEO and his wife and how economic development is. The CEO flies in on the private jet. They do a tour in this one city. They go to the next city, do a tour there, get back on their private jet, and they start talking about, okay, what site do we like better in these two cities? Well, apparently at the end of the day, the CEO's wife looked at him and said, I cannot imagine living in Cookeville, Tennessee. And that's because they didn't have the retail amenities that was needed to grow their industry and manufacturing base. So Cookeville then said, well, we got to take a proactive approach. They hired retail strategies, and as you can see in the picture in the back is actually the shopping center we worked on, a really massive public-private partnership anchored by an Academy of Sports. There's clothing, there's local brands, there's pad sites with food opportunities, and so now this site previously was just vacant land with a ditch and trees and brush, and you didn't think anything of it, but now it's got this beautiful development that is now attracting other people and other workforce.
And just to be clear, if we were to hire you, you cover the whole county, right?
The whole
Not
county.
just for the county, you do the town of Brantford, the
Yes.
city of Live Oak.
We also know about the south end.
Yeah, that's my end.
Yes. Yes, we will represent the entire county.
Thank you.
How could we forget about you?
Well, I ain't gonna let you.
But I think that was a good question because we have already talked about this and we've had several conversations, and it's not just, I don't want everybody in here to think we're just concentrating on the 129 corridor. We are, because that's a lot of where the retail is, but it's the whole entire community. On the south end, you know, there's been some development down there, so it'll look different.
Yes.
And she's got tons of the little charts that she was mentioning, the pyramids. It'll look different as to what the next step is for Brantford than it would be what the next step is for Live Oak, but they'll be working on all of those communities. So, and Carissa's been working closely with Sarah Beth. I'm gonna go ahead and throw this in there. As she mentioned, this is very timely because they're going to the biggest show of the whole entire year, and we want them to be representing Suwannee County when they go. So Sarah Beth and Carissa have got an application already submitted for the grant to help pay for the process, and Miss Mary has assured us that if y'all paid attention tonight, we'd get extra points, as I said. So that'll take care of the majority of the cost, but that's why this was so timely. We want to go ahead and get it in front of you, so when she takes her journey in a couple of weeks, she can be wearing a Suwannee County shirt.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Any other questions of Ms. Sarah Beth?
I'm good.
We appreciate you coming.
Absolutely. Well,
you.
thank you so much for having me. I appreciate your time. And they were great participants, Mary. Everyone paid attention very, very well. Yes. Thank you very much.
That was failed to mention too. They look at downtown areas too. So how do we make the corridors work with the downtown?
Yep.
So it's not like you're forgetting if communities have a downtown.
That's
How do we help grow that downtown as well too?
That's
And
good.
strengthen the already existing retail that's there. So, because that's what we want for communities as well.
And
We're not road strategies.
Get some more revenue coming in, maybe we can.
it was interesting. I went to the Duke Energy thing with Jimmy and Carissa and sat through this, and you know, when I was going over, I was thinking there ain't a whole lot to this. You know, why am I doing what I'm doing? But it didn't take just a few minutes of sitting and listening to their presentation of what they do and how they do it and who they know, and it just felt like a really good fit for Suwannee County. So if anybody of you are wondering, I'm behind pushing this too. So yes, ma'am. If you don't mind, would you come to the podium?
We got to quit sending you off. Every time you go somewhere, you bring back something.
Gotta grow it. Not the government either.
Marilyn Aiken, 14241 225th Road, Live Oak, Florida,
Welcome.
32060. My question, because we do need growth here, Suwannee County, but when you're growing it, when you're looking at everything, and I know you said that you're considering the downtown area, does that include the mom and pop and how it's going to affect the small businesses in Suwannee County?
That's a good thing, good question, yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up. But absolutely, the last thing we ever would want to do is to cannibalize your current businesses. That doesn't grow your community. That hurts it. That hurts a local entrepreneur. And I would much rather shop at a local restaurant, local boutique, coffee shop. That's the true heart of who you are as a community. So that's the last thing we would ever want to do. Oftentimes, we do find that certain retail chains do help strengthen those local brands. Because you go once or twice to that retail chain, you're like, wait a second, we've got this really great local coffee shop. I'm gonna go sit there, work on my laptop. So we see that dynamic really does change and helps grow. But again, you do get a vote of what retail brands we target. So you, again, could say to us, hey, we've got a great local coffee user. Do not try to bring us that, type of brand. We get it. That's something we're here to do. We're here to grow your community smart. In a smart manner. There we go. That's a better way to put that.
Sir.
Steve Fontana, 21181, 144th. I just had a couple of quick questions. One is, you mentioned grant money. Is that like a private grant money, or is it a federal or state? And what kind of contractual agreements will the county have to make with those? Also, the 3 years versus, why a 3 years instead of an annual? Things change pretty quickly sometimes.
Yeah,
That's it.
great questions. No, that's perfect. So we do typically ask for a 3-year engagement. They are annually, so it just locks in a specific pricing so that if our prices, inflation increases, you are in a certain dollar amount. And again, it helps with your budgeting. So knowing the next few years, we're planning to work on this project, so we want to budget it for the next few years. We ask for 3 years because retail does take time. A Dunkin' Donuts typically has a 9-month turnaround, whereas a grocery chain or larger boxes take anywhere from 2, 3, 5, sometimes 10 years. So it's an ongoing process. So that's why we asked for that 3-year engagement. You can exit out of that agreement at any time. There's no penalty. We just ask for that so we can build momentum, have some quick wins, but also have some of those longer term wins as well. We do have a piggyback agreement in place with Lauderdale Lakes. So that was competitively won originally in 2019. It was extended for a year at the beginning of the end of 2020, end of 2021. They ended up going out for bid again because that was only a true 1-year contract. They said, retail strategies, please, please, please apply. We won again, so that contract is another 4 years set up with them. It does have cooperative piggyback language written into it. So other communities like Highlands County, Okeechobee County, the city of Bartow, city of Dade City, city of Davenport, they have all piggybacked that agreement as well. So that eases the procurement process.
Thank you.
And one thing that was mentioned as far as the grant money,
Yeah, sorry.
no, you're fine, that's fine. That's actually from Duke Energy. So Duke Energy is not federal, it's not state, it is Duke Energy who's stepping up to the plate, putting up these programs so that we, like I said, Ms. Sarah Beth and Carissa and the Duke team have worked together, and we've already applied for the program. So y'all are paying attention, right? Look at Mary and Wade.
Is there any other questions? No, good. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
You want me to come back?
Yeah, you're the bad guy.
I got more stuff, but I can come back later under staff. So,
Well, I wanted to bring up, each one of you's got an agreement, and I think, Adam, you've looked over this, have you not?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
In the essence of time, they're, like they were telling you, their biggest show is in Las Vegas at the end of the month, and me personally would like to see them there representing us at that time. So I would like to try to take a vote on this agreement to provide consulting services tonight if we could.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Land.
Mr. Norris, how do we, on the funding from Duke, is that incremental dollars, or is that a set, if you get it, it's X, or no, you don't get it, it's 0? Or is it
we have
arbitrary?
Duke in the house.
Like, how does that work?
Come on, Miss Mary.
Chris is in the house too, so I know better than that. Actually, what these are, they're grants up to $25,000. I would assume that they've applied for the full $25,000. I cannot say whether or not they'll be funded or not. This is through our Economic Development Foundation. So, and this is the program that we are encouraging. North Florida is our state president really has I don't want to say her side, but an emphasis on North Florida. We know how we need to be serving. And so economic development, we're trying to do the same. So I can't guarantee you'll get the grant, but it's whatever you apply for, that's probably what they would get. but I can't say, I'm not on that team that's going to be reviewing.
Yes, ma'am, I
I
understand.
hope that answered your question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
If we don't get it, the chairman will unplug that solar farm down there, right?
That's somebody else's.
But saying that, it would be budgeted coming through the Economic Development Office.
And
So-
I think Mr. Norris has enough money to cover the difference in his budget
I do.
between the,
That was my next.
20, 25, and the 40.
yeah.
Taking from.
Yeah, no, we do. And the additional line that we have, and that's what it was for, was additional marketing efforts and things that we want to do to bring business to town. So, yeah, we have the money sitting there available to use. And we're confident on the grant, so. But if not, we still can cover it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Land?
I mean, I'm okay with it. I appreciate Sarah Beth coming and just hearing some of the, lack of better words, names she threw around other communities that have used them, and obviously there's some success stories there. I would also, before, if we were to approve this tonight, just make it contingent upon our attorney approval.
He's already looked at
Okay.
it. He's
Okay.
already approved it.
So I'm okay with it.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Perkins?
you ready for,
Sir?
you ready to move on it?
Yeah, if y'all are good with that, we can take a vote on approving this agreement to provide consulting services tonight. I just need a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Perkins?
I move that we accept the consulting firm to aid the Development Authority in gaining retailers here for the county.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Perkins, second by Commissioner Land.
Before y'all completely vote on that, there's a motion in a second. Y'all did read that this was working with Carissa on this project, not me, right?
That's why it's where it's at.
Okay, all right. I thought that. I just wanted to be sure.
But I'll amend that to, that you work with Carissa.
Yeah.
All right,
So she's handling this part of it, so I just want to be sure y'all were good with that.
we got it.
So we got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none,
Just real quick, and Jimmy, I mean, I'm just having thoughts of this. I know you say you have it in your budget, but would this not fall through the SCDA? Could we not go to them to ask for some help with this?
We can ask for help. All I'm saying is at this point, we will pursue other avenues, but I just want to let you know I can cover it within my budget. Now, we're going to go just like we do with Enterprise Florida and all these other grants and the Development Authority.
Right.
We'll pursue that avenue because we've done several projects this year that we've
With
spent
them
and we've been
already.
able to get reimbursed.
Right.
And we will do that here, but I just want you to be comfortable with the fact that if we can't find anything, even if Duke doesn't help us at all, we're still able to, there's no problem with it in my budget of covering it. So
Gotcha.
that's all. But yes, we could pursue that. Yes, sir.
Okay.
got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Ms. Sarah.
Thank you, Ms. Sarah Beth.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Looking forward to working with you.
Are you staying here?
Drive back to Birmingham.
Do you?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Wow,
that's a
6-hour
haul.
drive.
That's a haul.
Well, we appreciate you coming.
Drive safe.
And you don't have to stay till the end if you got to go. We understand.
Thank you very much.
Item number 21, Employee Assistance Program. I think Mr. Tom Warren's here to present that.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The sheriff and the chief deputy couldn't make it tonight, so they had prior obligations, so they asked me to come up here and speak to you just briefly. And what they relayed to me was that we all know that today that mental health is a hot topic in law enforcement and public safety. And with that in mind, we want to try to get ahead of the game and be able to be there for our employees in the event that the need arises. So the sheriff has asked me to ask the board if they would be so good as to allow us to utilize $6,500 of our leftover money that was used to budget for the LifeScan project that was not used, to be able to enter a contract with Uliance, which is a company that is an employee assistance program-based company. It's designed to assist employees in resolving personal health, work-related problems that may be adversely affecting their job performance, mental health, emotional well-being. This company specializes in law enforcement needs. Our critical care stuff will still go to our psychologist down in Gainesville, who's Dr. Grant McDougall. But as a person who's been in law enforcement for almost 40 years, I know that occasionally these things are needed, especially if you've witnessed, and just recently we witnessed a person attempt suicide in front of our officers, and that turns out to be a traumatic event for most of us. This money will cover not only the employees, but their spouses and their dependents at no charge to them. It's topics that they will cover: the mental health, financial, legal, elder care, child care, and divorce. The services are provided via the phone, video-based counseling, online chatting, email interactions, and face-to-face if necessary. This $6,500 will cover the 250 people for 1 year, and at the end of that year, if it's something that the sheriff feels like that the employees utilized and needed, that he would like to continue the contract, or maybe contract out for a different company if the need arises. But that is where he stands. We just want to attempt it for 1 year and see where we'll go. So that's my spiel.
Any questions of Mr. Warren?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Perkins?
Captain Warren, I know mental health is on the rise. I was up in Washington, D.C., and they was talking about that, mental health, how bad it is, and it really is. And counseling will be great. They will be able to, say 250 people, they will be able to counsel them at any hour, any time. What's the limitation on counseling? Is there a limitation of counseling?
See, that is my understanding is that they just have to pick up the phone and make the phone call, and I'm not sure exactly what time of day or hours they present, but like Meridian, it's not associated exactly with Meridian, but it's kind of similar to Meridian, where they have mental health counselors that are there. We are able to call them and have response teams that actually come out into the county now in the event that they're needed.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Land?
I mean, I'll speak to it. I think that, I mean, obviously that's pretty traumatic if you physically witness someone trying to attempt suicide on herself. I'm assuming you're talking about the gunshot, but, and he stated that this is a 1-year contract. They want to give it a shot. So I'm okay with moving forward, for letting them try it one time or for 1 year to see how it benefits. They may find a different vendor or a better vendor, or may decide that they don't use it, but without giving it a shot, you'll never know. So I'm okay with it.
One other thing, Mr. Chairman, too, I want to say this. I think it's great, too, because, you got officers and they may be out there in the line of fire. It's crazy out there now. And that'll be something to help them as well. You can go out and shoot someone, and may be their first time of shooting someone. Have to use a gun. They may need help in that respect. So, yeah.
Well, as being an officer who's been involved in a shooting, I can tell you that it will help to some degree to be able to get and have counseling and talk to people about the issues that it doesn't just it's not just for officer-involved shooting. You might witness something tragic as a baby drowning or something along those lines. I know y'all are well aware that just a few years back we had the series of murders where the 3 people were murdered in their home. And I could call them by name, but I'm not going to.
Right.
But we were involved in that, and to see these kind of things, it's very upsetting, very traumatic to you.
Yeah.
So we asked for that today.
Well, and I understand too, because I sat in on an insurance committee meeting with the sheriff a little while ago, and he was explaining some of it to me before we got here, that it also covers stuff like divorce.
Yes, sir.
And that kind of thing too, where they can call and talk to a counselor about it.
Yeah, I think that's that's a primary care as well as divorce. And even, law enforcement, we have issues with our children today from time to time as well. And so it'll give you an avenue to seek out some counseling and decide and try to help determine what you may or what avenue you might be able to take to improve your relationship with your children.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner, I'm sorry, Mr. Scott.
if y'all vote to approve this, I'd like to get the okay to if they go up to 250 employees, fire rescue, those guys have traumatic experiences also, and they may be under that umbrella also, not to get in the way of the sheriff's office, what they need to do, but just throw that out there as an option to add. We even had a case of a, driver that, was in an accident and there's a death and, those things too. So I'm not sure how it works, but I would like to explore that as a possibility if the sheriff's okay with that also.
I don't, Mr. Chairman, I don't think Mr. Warren or our sheriff would have a problem with the county as long as we don't fall over the threshold using those services should the county or fire or anyone else need them. Would you? You wouldn't care, would you?
Good, thank you.
Yes, sir. So do we need a vote on this or just consensus? Anybody got a clue?
It's in his budget, so I don't know if we need to or not. I mean, it's monies he has, right? Is that the way I understand
It doesn't hurt to vote, so
Just
just
vote on
out
it.
of side the caution, I would say.
I have a motion by Commissioner Mobley.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Perkins. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5-0. Are there any staff items at this time?
Just a few things, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
One, I put a summer flyer on y'all's desk just for informational purposes. Anybody wants to sign up for swimming lessons, all the information is in there for you. There's some out front for the public as well. Summer's here, so get ready. We've been busy. Did want to mention, too, just when Jimmy was talking about Duke, she stepped out, I think, but they've been real good to us. Last week, or last commission meeting, you signed the agreement with them for the bridge portion of the trail. And then we'll be coming, now that we finally got that ironed out, next commission meeting, we'll bring an extension of for DOT to extend that construction contract, because it did take a little while. But Duke also gave, I think it was $12,000 maybe? Do you remember?
11 or 12. I can't
11 or
remember.
12, and to partner with the town of Brantford down there on a project on the trail. So they've been real good. Just wanted to mention that as he's working with them. And then lastly, Friday, Little River Springs, we're going to be starting our first day of charging $5 a vehicle. Sign you down for the first shift, Mr. Chairman.
I'll be there.
To work the gate.
I have not a problem with it.
Those of you on social media, it's been pretty positive. We have had, some negative comments, and of course, now people are online and want to drive things home and keep drama going. But the overall has been a positive response. We were down there today. Everybody thanked us, looking forward to it. I don't mind paying. I'll pay today. And we're like, no, we're not ready for that. But anyway, if you get any calls, please forward them. To me, we'll be glad to take them. But I think overall it's going to be a great thing. So appreciate y'all's support on that.
Thank you. I've had several phone calls, texts on it, and it's always a good job. Glad you done it.
Yeah.
I hadn't had any negative response.
Mention maybe what I called you on?
Yeah, so we did have a couple calls. We didn't put it in our announcement, I guess, but it was just kind of always a given to me for veterans to have, free entrance into the park, just like we do for a state or a national park. So we'll of course honor that. And Don had got Mr. Hale, sorry, had received a phone call that the VA or Veteran Affairs Office, they were already planning on bringing a group of disabled veterans to the Springs. Had heard about the charge. Of course, they were willing to pay, and they just needed some time. But we just followed up with them and let them know that there's no charge for those guys. They're bringing a van full of former servicemen over and going to enjoy the spring. So, of course, we're going to work with them on that. So, but it's great to hear they wanted to come even before all this. So.
That's right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Mr. Norris, you had something?
Hello again.
You're on the clock.
There's been a lot going on. I don't know if I can handle it that quick. But yeah, just a couple of things wanted to update you guys on. I wasn't here at the last meeting, obviously, so I'm not sure if anybody mentioned or brought up, the ribbon cut we did at Palm Street. I don't know if you guys mentioned that or talked about it, but we did have the ribbon cut, and I wanted to thank you guys for that. That was a great combined partnership between the city and the county, and there was a tremendous turnout that day. And it was kind of amazing because it was really bad weather and the skies parted, and it was perfectly sunny for the picture. So the big guys looking out for us once again. So I thank you for that. It was important to Dana and all those business owners that were there. They were very appreciative, and that just shows you what we can do when we work together, right? That was a good win.
It really was.
It's a good thing.
Yep.
Really good thing. We weren't here the previous meeting. I wanted to mention that because you guys know we were shooting a TDC video. A little update, that was the last part of that video/photo shoot. So we'll start compiling that information, and we'll have some new assets to be able to promote the county. And we just got some of them in today, and one of the commissioners, I ain't gonna say who, walked into office and got a sneak peek because I had it up on the big screen, but we've got some gorgeous stuff, man. It's incredible what this is gonna look like. So, but that, appreciate the support of that as well. Also, Rural County Days last week, you guys were all there, and Mr. Scott was there as well. And I think you see that it's pretty important that you're out there and the legislatures see you there, that the folks in Tallahassee see you there. I never knew that Mr. Perkins was a salesman like he is.
Man.
Dude, he was hustling. He was hustling.
We carried half again as much stuff as we carried the year before. And the year before we carried some stuff back, and we ran out of everything. I walked back and we were out of bags. We were out of everything, right?
I couldn't find nothing left to give anybody.
We gave away thousands of pieces of, and I want to thank the businesses that Busy Bee and Bender Holtz and Ash Grove, Pilgrims, River Oak, and Miss Mary and Julie were there as well, working in our tent. They came by and worked for a while and helped us out, but Mr. Perkins, we had these stress balls that look like the world, but they say Suwannee County on it. And he kept telling them, this was the center of the universe right here, and you're holding the whole world in your hand right here. This is so powerful, and so I just never knew he had. I'm gonna be a little nervous now because I see how he kind of works. He's smooth.
I thought he was on commission.
If he is, I'm gonna need some budget increase. So
He was selling it while y'all was going to buy.
Man, he had it going. I was so impressed, but thank you all for that. Y'all, everybody was working, and when I know a lot of people don't realize you're on 100 different committees. Mm-hmm. They think you just meet 2 times a week. I know better because I see you all the time. And for you guys to take a couple days last week and be in Tallahassee, I think we see by some of the stuff that's fixing to come down that it's paying off. Okay, I really think it is, and it's. First time I ever had an administrator helping me out too. So thanks for that, boss. So appreciate that.
Define help out.
Yeah, he was there, wasn't he there?
He was there.
He was, okay. All right. Probably the biggest thing, there was the ribbon cut in the airport, but I guess you'll get that or somebody will. So, okay. We made an announcement, Project Wave. I hope everybody saw that. Finally, we're able to get that out there. That'll be a big project for Suwannee County. Our engineer is working with him. Mr. Bailey right now, he's jumped on that team and has actually helped Rick with the design and engineer. So shout out to all of you guys, but especially Commissioner Hale. He worked that project for the last 1.5 to 2 years with me. Yeah. We never gave up on it. Even when it was publicly announced they were going elsewhere, we never gave up on it.
Yep.
And
I moved his bulldozer.
You stole the wrong piece of equipment.
Yeah, so there's always opportunities, right? There's always opportunities. So yeah, we had some equipment delivered, and it was delivered to the wrong site, if you can believe that or not. So, but everybody that's been by and they've seen that big building sitting out there on the county property, that's Project Wave. A lot of people have been asking about it, but that's the project, 213,000 square foot building there.
Yep.
And he's going to start construction pretty soon. And there's a lot of other good stuff coming. But thank you guys for that. And I know when people hear about projects and they want to know, it's hard for us because we want you to know too, because we're as excited as you are. But this is proof that when you do it the right way, you can get to the end. But
I was just going to say, Mr. Chairman, on the heels of like going to Tallahassee to rural county days, having River Oak there, having those representatives there, having you guys there, our engineers was there. I mean, we had opportunities to talk to other firms, other companies and businesses, and it just shows our strength when we do that together. It shows the commitment of our community when they start having these questions and these concerns. And we didn't have to put a meeting together. We were having meetings underneath your tent.
And you're exactly right. We had a project we've been working with, and we invited him to come to Tallahassee. He was able to meet with the commissioners. Mm-hmm. He was able to meet with the administrator. He was able to meet with our engineer. He was able to meet with a lot of folks.
Well, the school was the big thing for me. He was able to have that conversation with them and his concerns.
Yep, and so it showed, and he was really impressed by all of you guys being there. So as you know, this thing's a marathon, not a sprint. And just like with this project, it's been a long time coming, but thank you for what you do, and lots of good stuff happening in Suwannee County. Appreciate you guys very much. The whole team, everybody.
Yeah.
One little, whether it's building department, planning and zoning, the staff over here, whatever it is, one little thing can derail something. Just one thing can derail something. But we got to do 1,000,000% to make it come home to us. And I thank everybody for that support.
Appreciate you. Thank you, Mr. Norris. Any other staff items? Any commissioner items?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Lane?
Mr. Scott.
Yes, sir.
Really quick, I talked to Mr. Scott about this, and I don't know if we forgot or you were going to bring it up later about the courthouse and the grounds.
Just going to bring it up later.
Okay.
But you can go ahead and bring it up now if you want to.
We'll go ahead and talk about it now real quick.
Okay.
So we had a meeting this morning at the courthouse. Some of the bailiffs organized it. They're trying to get accreditation for basically courthouse security. There's some improvements over there that need to be made exteriorly, but their main concern was and Mark was there, myself, the bailiffs, Mr. Baker was there, someone else, who else was there? No, it was just the four of us. So 20 years ago, the county contracted with the private sector to do the grounds of the courthouse. Since then, the sheriff's department has been taking care of it as they could. Trustees, inmates, COVID, we all know the story. I mean, there's a dead palm tree right dead in front of the courthouse. It's dead. There's dead shrubs that hadn't had mulching this year. That's the centerpiece, focal point of downtown Live Oak. And I talked to Mr. Scott there about maybe seeing if the board would entertain us putting an RFP out for maintenance of that. The irrigation system doesn't work. The trees have busted pipes. There's just a lot going on there. The grass is good here, dead there. 3 years ago they were going to plant the tree, the big live oak that they had to take down. They were going to replant it, and maybe Shade Tree could donate a new tree. But the tree I just think that's downtown Live Oak, and never do I want to take away from the synergy of what goes on downtown in the city of Live Oak. But the grounds there could use some TLC. Mark's looking at in his budget as far as some actual building stuff. There's some things there going on that he is diving into that he felt like he had the funds in his budget to jump on and try to take care of. The exterior of the actual structure. Our guys have never been responsible for the grounds ever, according to Mr. Durham. We'll see what y'all thought about maybe just taking care of the courthouse, the grounds, the mulch, the sod, I mean, there's some dead shrubs, there's lots of things going on there. It could look a lot better. Thoughts, concerns, whatever.
I want it to look good, so I don't have a problem with that.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to see us also look at the other constitutional officers' areas also. I know that Sharon and Ricky both have talked about, their front yard, which is tiny, but still we need to look at the whole complex downtown and to work toward that also.
I was going to go there, but I just kind of really wanted to start with maybe that block around, which would include the property appraiser tax collector. Just start there, see how that works on an RFP or maybe the private sector. We may choose not to do that, but to maybe put it out to bid to see what. When I say put that out to bid, I mean like as far as like pesticide, fertilizer, sod. I mean the whole thing. You drive by it every day and you don't notice it, but when you get out and you walk around up there and somebody actually points it out to you, you're like, oh wow, oh wow, I never even noticed that. Like this could look better.
I want it to look good. I mean, like you said, that centerpiece of lava there, it needs to look good.
So I don't know what the board's thought is about that and maybe putting it out to an RFP to see if we could maybe get some more consistency,
I mean, you don't know what it's going to cost. You don't know what's going to
idea.
Yeah.
I talked with Mr. Scott today too about maybe getting a workshop together for the garbage. Had some people asking about maybe if we could do something about trying to do a curbside pickup. It would save on a lot of the trash on the roadways, people running back to the dump. If we could, work on that at some point. And then you got like a progress report on the time frame on the bridge on the 180th. Have you talked to anybody on that?
It's going to be a little while.
He just took me in another direction.
Hey, I was talking about something different over here.
Mr. Mobley, we moved the barricades from the front of the roads thing. At least
We
get
went
to
from
your store
courthouse
now.
grounds to a bridge. Like, what happened?
District 5, brother.
So let's, I don't have a problem. I'll get back to the courthouse real quick as a consensus. I don't have a problem with y'all with trying to find out what that costs.
That's good, I'm good.
So,
Mr. Mobley, you good with that?
I'm good.
Just one, yes, sir, I'm good with it, but just one question. So you want to RFP it, but you want to get prices on it? What you try to get on
Well,
it?
my thought, and I'm open to whatever you guys want to do. My thoughts, and we had talked about in our
some
meeting this
ideas.
morning, it just get an RFP of what total maintenance would look like for that facility, as far as the grounds, the sprinkler system, the fertilizer, the herbicide, the removal of dead, everything.
So you have that list. I mean, you feel confident with just that list is what we need, or do we need
Before
to give them time to put
before we
something
were
together?
to, I was going to ask you guys to let Mr. Scott get with the bailiffs, Mr. Baker, whose office, constitutional officers down there as well, and let them come up with a bid criteria and then put it out to RFP to say, hey, we want these things.
Yeah.
And then put it out to RFP to see what those numbers will look like on an annual contract.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
I think we got consensus on that.
I mean,
Staff will come up with a game plan.
yeah, we may not like the numbers. We may say, oh, no, we're not doing that. But, I mean, we don't know unless
Well, we
we
may do
put
some
it out
of it.
there.
You know?
So we got good consensus
So
on
you
that.
reckon we can get, once we get it like you want it, and then maybe have the sheriff department work for us to keep it up? Maybe that can happen.
I think part of the problem is some of the inmates can't use the tools that are needed.
Oh, yeah, okay.
to,
That was one of the main problems the bailiff
Yeah.
said, is some of the tools needed to really do the job, the inmates are prohibited from using, so the job never gets done, because the inmate can't use the tool.
Makes sense.
So we can take them from that to picking up the trash?
Yeah,
There you
and
go.
fixing the bridge.
Yeah, that's right. Mr. Mobley, did you get your question answered?
I'm good. We talked earlier.
He's gonna have the bridge done next week?
Next week.
Sure. You got inner tubes will just float across there.
Any
Pretty
other
good.
commissioner items at this time?
No, sir.
Seeing none, county attorney items, Mr. Moore?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to briefly state thank you to you all for the opportunity to serve. And then I want to reiterate what I had said at the top of the meeting, which is, again, anything you guys can do, the biggest thing that the board can do to help in the transition will be to make me that itemized list of what it is you're looking at, because it will make the transition process much more effective. The last bit, I just want to say this generally to probably speaking mostly to staff, but as well as to the board, which is two things that may be a little contradictory. First, just because something has always been done a certain way doesn't mean it has to be done that way. So in the absence of a statute or a rule which requires something, I'm certainly open to changing how things have been done in the past vis-a-vis the county attorney and what I'll be doing. So I also have no pride in ownership, so if you have an idea that can make something better, please tell me, and I'll be happy to give you credit. Or take it, just depends. The last bit is I'm a fat guy with orange hair. It takes a lot to offend me. So if there's something that needs to change, or you see me doing something incorrectly, or you think it could be done better, the only way to actually offend me would be to not say something, complain about it behind my back, and then I find out about it, like, oh, he's doing this could be done better. And if you had just told me, I could have done it. As you guys know from my rather impromptu interview last time, this is my first go-around up here, so I'm going to do the best I can, and I'm going to ask you all to help me do the best I can. And same goes to staff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. We appreciate that. Appreciate the honesty and openness.
Yeah.
Any other, I see we've done that, sorry. General business, item 22, update on county projects. Mr. Bailey.
Good evening. Before I get started, I would like to commend the board. All 5 of you were at Tallahassee Little County Days. There were some of your neighboring counties that didn't even have a commissioner there, so I think you represented Suwannee County well.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
First project is Weidman and Carter in Branford. We met with the contractor and addressed their concerns. They're planning on being back at work June the 12th. They wanted to wait until school was out so that minimized any disruption to the community down there, because we do have a lot of school traffic in that particular where those projects are. 80th and 139th, we received a request for additional information from the Water Management District on that project on the 25th. We responded back to them on the 27th, and we expect to receive an exemption letter here within the next few weeks. This is also the road that has the old railroad property that's out there. We've gone out there and measured. It's our opinion that the county has maintained that long enough that you have prescriptive rights to that right of way. Probably need to prepare a maintenance map to show that, and then that should be sufficient for DOT and for Mr. Scott to sign that all the right of way is available for the project. So just like some direction from the board if you want us to do that or not, to prepare that maintenance map.
I'm good with it. I'm ready to move forward with the project.
Okay, so we'll prepare the maintenance map,
That's the
provide
road
that to Mr. Scott.
By circles to the backside of the airport.
Right.
Yes.
Connects New Bern and Mitchell.
Got the water issue, or lack thereof.
This
I think they-
issue is just west of the county office.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm good.
The railroad
Yeah.
issue is.
The water issue we resolved
It's
by,
around the curb.
we put a one-way slope on the pavement there to slope away from that gentleman, so he cannot say he's getting any road runoff at all.
Gotcha,
With a double ditch.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate you guys coming up with that. I know we were restrained there, but
Right.
it was.
Mr. Chairman, I'm
That worked out
sorry.
well.
If I could ask a question, just when we're talking about prescriptive easements, do we have a legal of that easement? Okay,
That's what,
okay,
That was done in fall,
okay,
so I'll have it sent to you as well.
thank you.
the 76th, we're still working on the design of that. We're moving close to 60% complete on that. To keep that project in budget, we're looking at 10-foot travel lanes, which will widen the road 1 foot on each side. It will require a variance. A variance is required when we don't meet the Florida Green Book standards, but we do meet the federal standards. In the state of Florida, the legislature tasked DOT with developing standards for streets and highways, and that's what we call the Florida Green Book. And in some instances, in a lot of instances, those requirements are stricter than the federal requirements. So the federal requirements are like, we can't really violate. You got to almost have a very, very extreme case that you violate those. But because we're not meeting the state, but we can meet the federal, the board will need to approve a variance to go to the 10-foot lanes on that project. But that will keep us close to being within budget for that whole project there.
And widen the road 2 foot total.
Total, it's 1 foot on each
Yep.
side.
Gotcha. And, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Commissioner New.
that's number 2.
All right, now.
But,
Well, that's because all the work's getting done in your district.
well, it took me 6 years. But
It does take some
it takes
time.
forever, guys, it does. But with that being said, something I think I mentioned it to Greg Scott one time, do we need, is there any power poles that need to be moved? And my concern with that is because they're doing fiber optics, and I don't want them.
Yes, we're working through the utility coordination.
Okay, great.
We're aware Suwannee Valley's in that area. That's
Right.
not one that has currently replied back in the last couple of weeks, but.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I did reach out to Mike McWaters, let him be aware that we want to make sure we're coordinating that with them, let them know the specific about that road, so they are aware of that.
Great.
Okay. Express Street in Branford, we've received the authorized agent document for the Water Management District. We've sent the exemption request in to them on the 25th of April. We expect to get that back pretty quick, and we should be ready to deliver that for bidding purposes to move to construction here pretty quick. Greenway Trail, you heard Jason talk about that a little bit. We did meet with DOT, the Water Management District, concerning the TIF easement versus the letter of consent. The department has agreed that the letter of consent is sufficient for that to move forward. So we're moving that project forward as planned at this time. 153rd Road, we're on hold due to the right-of-way issues that we're having there. I think the Commissioner's aware of that.
Yes.
So that's all I have on the road projects, just some other miscellaneous projects. We did submit prepared the grant application to DEO for the Community Technical Assistance Grant. That was for $75,000. That was to assist in the master planning out at the Catalyst site. There is an additional $300,000 grant that will be available coming up August. The window opens up for that one at that time. That should, if we're successful in getting both of those grants, that should cover the county for the cost of those services out there, more so than what it is. We're also working on a request for inclusion for submitting to SRF funding for Phase 1 on the water main extension out at the Catalyst site as well. Along with that, concerning that, we did receive the DEP permit for that. That is the extension that goes to Project Wave. So that part's been done. We're waiting on the approval from FGA, even though it's the county's rail spur, because it's the FGA's operation purview there. We have to get approval from them. They've had that for over a week now, so we're going to give them to the end of this week, and then we're going to reach out and see if there's any comments. We don't expect a whole lot. It's just a technical review, because all we're doing is punching under the rail there, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Further along those lines, that's the last permit approval that we need is from FGA. At this point, Mr. Scott, I think we need to have some discussions as far as can we follow the standard bidding process that the county has and get these things done within the development agreement timeframe, or do we need to do an expedited permitting process? And what I mean by that is some of the administrative times that's been built into the county, can we shorten any of those? Can we get bids so that we can get them to the board instead of having a 2-week delay or 3-week delay on some of that that's been built into it in the past? So we'd like to have a discussion with staff on that as far as the need for that.
We'll definitely need to expedite that if we can.
Well, can we, maybe have a conversation with you and the county attorney, and then let's kind of lay out the timeframes, how we can speed that up.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. The CDBG-CV building, we're making building and site revisions based on our meetings with the county staff. County Road 137, it's 100% complete, the original construction that was approved by the board, and those documents have been submitted to DEP by your CEI out there, and the water main has been cleared for operation out there on that. I think that's all I have as far as actual stuff. We, as Jimmy mentioned, we continue to work with the Economic Development Office on these projects. We are working on Project Wave's actual site. They had an issue. We're working with them to correct that. One of the things that has happened as a result of that is the road that would access his facility has been moved on the site. We will need to revise the legal description that the county had for utilities out there because it followed the old original roadway alignment. So we will need to revise that and get that agreement. I'm assuming it's part of the agreement, Jimmy?
Yes.
So we'll need to modify that, modify the agreement.
And the easements.
Well,
It's for the.
Yeah, for the easements.
That easement was to cover our water, our sewer, our electric,
Gas,
all
too.
facilities, gas, and fiber optic.
Any questions of Mr. Bailey?
I'd just say thank you. I mean, when that came up, Jimmy and everybody jumped right on it and addressed it, and I appreciate that.
We're working fast and furious.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey.
Thank
Ms.
you, Mr.
Humphries.
Bailey. Thank you, Mr. Ward.
Thank y'all.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Item number 23, preliminary plat approval of, or a replat of Duke's Place subdivision. Mr. Meeks.
Mr. Chairman, board members, if the name sounds familiar, subdivision has been before the board in the past. After the board had previously approved Duke's Place subdivision, there were some conversations with FDOT involving driveway access on State Road 51. And it was discovered at that time that the lots that were, as they were platted, were not going to be able to receive the driveway approvals from DOT due to the distance between their locations. So really the only remedy behind that was that they were going to have to look at redesigning that original layout of that subdivision. So what used to be Block A to the south used to contain 2 5-acre lots. That's now been combined to one 10-acre lot that would front State Road 51. And then you would have to the north in Block B, lots 2, 3, and 4. Lots 3 and 4 will have a shared driveway access on 51, and then lots 1 and 2 will access an easement access through off of State Road 51. So the subdivision itself will actually just end up with 2 access points to State Road 51. So this would be a preliminary plat approval of this redesign of Duke's Place subdivision. So we'll just be asking for preliminary plat approval from the board tonight, and then we'll be bringing the final plat back before the board at a later date.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Meeks? Thank you, Mr. Meeks. I guess you need a vote on that, don't you?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Land,
Second.
second by Commissioner Hale. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you. Item number 24, discuss with possible board action, chip seal versus asphalt. Mr. Scott.
We discussed this last meeting, and staff did some calculations about and had the idea that we could possibly do some of these short runs that were scheduled for chip seal to actually asphalt those, probably at the same price or cheaper on some of the projects due to some of the costs we have with the chip seal. Anyway, so you got a breakdown there of the different short runs that we've got in the plan for chip seal. It would cost us in total about $7,500 to not chip seal, but actually pave using our guys and resources to make those changes. So you've got the numbers in front of you, and if you want to look at those individually, you certainly can do that. If you want to look at them in a total, that's your prerogative.
How long are some of these, Mr. Scott? Do you know?
Some of these are like downtown Welborn, so they're very short city blocks.
The one on the top, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Lane.
The one on the top is actually just, if you're familiar with where the Advent Christian Villages Road on the northern side, I guess, on County Road 136 comes out, the exit is past the fire station, past the library, where that comes into 136. If you were to take a left, like you're coming back toward town on 136, it's that first road to the left. It actually makes a small loop in there. I don't know, there's 1 acre, half-acre lots all on it, and it just loops right around and comes back out on 136. And then that second road, which is 102nd Place, is actually the next road down. It's a dirt road too, with 1 acre lots on it with site-built homes on it. It dead ends probably less than a quarter mile long, but it's a dead end. And I mean, I'll tell you how I come up with these roads. These aren't any roads that are near and dear to my heart, or that, you know, that are significant to me. It was more of when I went to road department supervisors and grader supervisors, like, hey, tell me the roads in my district that are a maintenance nightmare for the county, expense, time, whatever it is. You tell me. I mean, who better knows your road problems than your road grader? The guy that grades your road, not the road grader, but the guy who operates it. Anyway, that's how I came up with these roads. They're small. It takes them more time to get there than it does to grade it. And then with all the homes on it, trying to turn around, they're just nightmares. So that's how I came up with those roads. The top two obviously are in District 3. It says that they're on the paper. But for me, for $7,500, we can pave all 6 of them and be done with having to maintain them. And I think that for me, the life on the chip seal, yes, it's probably going to last us 20 years, but we'll probably get another 10 out of the asphalt for $7,500. And I'm not saying on one road, I'm saying $7,500, the total, $7,500 on all of them. So just pave them and be done with it.
And Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Hale.
I think to clarify what you're talking about, Commissioners, these were budgeted.
Yeah, these are already budgeted. They're in the budget.
These were budgeted chip seal roads, and what they're showing us here is for $7,500 more dollars, we can just asphalt them.
Yeah, I didn't clarify that. These roads were already on the list to be chip sealed, already in the budget to chip sealed, and the question was at the time. I'm glad you clarified that.
Right.
This isn't new stuff.
Right.
These are old roads, and the question was, we asked Mr. Scott to give us those numbers on the difference.
So these are all really, yeah, but they're just really short roads.
Yeah. And I agree with you. When I pick out the roads in my district, I ask for the most problematic roads, or what makes the most sense. If you got a grader bringing him across town to do 2 little roads or 2/10 of a mile,
right?
It just didn't make sense. Some of the ones I did is why I picked the same thing. But I can tell y'all, if y'all hadn't had a chance to look at what our staff did at Oakwood, they did a great job.
They did one for me at the community center in McAlpin, and it was really nice too.
I've seen that, yeah.
And a lot of these roads are low traffic. They're just maintenance nightmares because we got this big road grader on this little bitty county road that we own, and I mean these are lightly traveled at low speeds, but they're maintenance nightmares.
So, Mr. Scott, are you asking for approval to change from chip seal to asphalt, or?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Perkins.
So these was already budget. I know it was budget items, but it was budgeted for Asphalt, right?
They were budgeted for chip seal.
Chip seal, okay. Well,
And we can find $7,500
yeah.
in those line items.
Well, I'm agreeing about it. I mean, everyone else, to get the better deal, to go ahead and spend the $7,500 more dollars and get the.
Oh, it's 7,500 less.
It's less.
Oh, well, okay. Well, that's even better.
Oh, heck, I read it backwards. It's less.
Yeah, so go ahead and do the chip seal,
less.
do the asphalt, yeah.
Yeah, I'm reading it backwards.
No.
Yeah.
It's even less, so.
Well, and honestly, Mr. Chairman, I like the chip seal. It was a great alternative at the time because we didn't have these other options or the crews. But what I see with the chip seal, and I know the community sees it, the guys go out and they work the roads, they get them ready, and we're waiting on that crew to get here. And then there's other maintenance that goes back into that and bringing them back up and getting them ready again and again. Great product. I'm not knocking the product, just maybe the process sometimes.
Yeah, and I Commissioner Chairman, I mean, I'll echo that. I mean, I think you're right, and I think that the chip seal is still the way to go probably on your long roads.
That's right.
That are 2 miles long, because obviously asphalt and those is going to be more expensive than these little punch jobs with the amount of material. So, and the mobilization is less. I mean, they're mobilizing all that equipment and they're going to be there for a week doing it versus mobilize here. Okay, we're there for half a day. Mobilize here, and they're hitting you every time they got to move it. They're hitting you with a mobilization. So your short roads, yeah, there's a cost to it still, but it's us and our guys and our equipment.
And they do a good job.
They do a good job. Great job.
Yeah.
So with that being said, do we have a motion to approve changing this from chip seal to asphalt on these listed roads, I'm assuming?
Yes, sir.
On these listed roads?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Land, second by Commissioner Mobley. Any further discussion?
None.
Seeing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. 5-0. Is there any additional agenda items?
No, sir.
Scott? Public concerns and comments. The part y'all have been waiting on.
Bo Hancock, 6135 Wiggins Road. Gentlemen, y'all know what that is.
Dude, yes, sir.
Here, dude.
Well, I'm going to pick on Don.
I've been grabbing it all night.
Every time he gets through talking, he pushes it away. And then he forgets to pull it back.
Well, he's scared you're going to hear him snoring.
Could be, but
My stomach
that's annoying.
Can you hear me, Mr. Bo?
Yes, I don't have a problem with you. The county attorney needs to pull his up a little bit.
Hey.
I'm letting you know. But I have the young lady was here, Sarah was here, and she made her presentation. And y'all then subsequently decided to retain her firm. The public has never seen any documentation. There was no mention other than the fact that Jimmy's budget economic development budget will cover that. But he's also applying for a grant. This was a non-budgeted item. It can come out of his budget, or if he gets the grant, then everything is kosher. But the fact, this was a presentation. Public saw nothing, no backup. We don't even know when it starts, ends, or what's in. But y'all now know, but the public doesn't. I just, I like to keep up what's going on. That's why I come to these meetings.
That's right.
I agree.
Well, I understand that, Mr. Bo, and that was me pushing that, and I'll just go ahead and take the blame for that. But the only reason I was pushing forward on it so hard is because she is going to the meeting in Las Vegas, and that's why I needed it
Don't have a
done.
problem with that, all of that.
And you're
I think it's a good
welcome.
idea. But the fact that when you do things like this, if you were not a commissioner and somebody's out talking in the public and they get their story wrong, But you walk away from that conversation with a perception that something is going wrong or is wrong. That I don't like. Because
understand.
perception to everybody becomes reality.
I understand that.
Creates some issues for us. Thank you.
Here you go.
Too late now?
Take it with you.
Y'all have
Go
already
study
done
it.
Well, and I, Mr. Chairman, I mean, and again, maybe, and I agree with Mr. Bowe, maybe if we, the next time we have something like this coming for our board, we can put those dates out there, have the whoever we're talking to do that. Jimmy, give us some more information to feed them up. So, absolutely. Mr. John.
John Koch, Independent News Services, P.O. Box 33, McAlpin. I cover 8 of you, 9 cities, 4 school boards, and I use a lot of sound. Why should I tell the people what you said when they can hear it themselves? So when Mr. Bowe criticized you for not putting your mouths up to the microphones, I'm going to go ahead and say you need to, because I'm going to pull that sound. I can't be here all the time. And I have no other choice but to pull the sound sometimes off of what comes off here. And I do it a lot. And it goes all over the state, and it's now going over to England.
Right. England? You mean we got fans in England?
Yes, you do.
Hot dog.
He does, not us.
Thank you, Mr. Cook.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move along. Mr. Scott, comments and information.
All right, just got a text from Gene a little bit ago, Gene Clark, one of our supervisors, that we should be getting a dozen loads of granite for chip seal delivered tomorrow. So they found where they can find some granite, so that's a good thing. I sent an email just to remind you to think about any workshops that you have in mind. So, if you just shoot me a text or email of anything that comes up. I've gotten some on the list already, but if you got more, just share with me and we'll prioritize those.
Commissioner Mobley, that was your chance.
A little bit fast.
He didn't want to get left behind. I know. Appreciate everybody being at the ribbon cutting at the airport. A lot of positive comments. It was a good project. And I have to tell you how much I appreciate, Jimmy touched on it, but whenever you guys show up and are part of what we're doing, it means a lot to staff that's worked hard at what they do. The thing to remember, too, is because you're at Rural County Days, I'm convinced the numbers that came back in the budget and getting increased was because of that. When Corey Simon came out under the tent and talked for a while, that made a difference, that made an impact on him in helping him to realize you're committed to what's happening in Suwannee County. I'm not just saying that to blow smoke. That's what I see, that's what I feel, that's what I experienced. And I appreciate every one of y'all that show up and get the job done. And you're right, the public doesn't know how many hours you put in extra, but we appreciate what you're doing for us. So just want to share that real quick. Side note, Eric Skeen's last day was last Thursday. They had a little deal for him out at the shop, very well received. We'd like to do more of those kind of things to celebrate employees, because without the employees, we can't get anything done. 42 years, I believe.
42 years.
You know, some people would say it was too many, but that's probably not to talk about tonight. But Eric did a great job for the county for a number of years.
Yes, he did.
And hopefully, wishing the best in his retirement, and up in the mountains we can go build a cabin. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Thank you.
Commissioner Perkins, closing comment?
Just a few things.
Sir?
Just a few things. Yeah, I enjoyed, being at the ribbon cutting ceremony, it was very good. Being down there with them and rural county days was very good to be there. And you're just going to get some more stuff, I run out of all this stuff we had to give out there, but I see Miss Carissa. She's the one that worked hard, but it was enjoyable to go there and work with the people, meet all the people that's coming in, meet and greet the people, and to be there with all of our commissioners and other departments. It was very good, so I enjoyed that. And also the airport, to see our airport grow to where it is now. Now we get folks flying in. That's really remarkable and great. But one other thing too, I want to say this in my closing is, Jason, Mr. Ford, he's already gone, and I meant to catch him before he left. About that, the Douglas Center, we bought the thing out the police station about doing the Mr. Dansby Field, naming it. He had stated he had brought me over a packet. I didn't receive the packet. That's why I was saying about I didn't receive it before I got here. I have 3 children, and I'm the only adult there. I got a high schooler, elementary school, and a middle schooler. They took it in somewhere, and they put it, and I just found it the other day. So I was going to apologize to him. I did find it. I didn't get it beforehand, but he did drop it by. So I will see him later, and I will tell him that I did receive it, did find it. It was in the envelope, like he said. But other than that, there, Mr. Chairman, just had a great meeting. Thank you for Mr. Beasley being here tonight, coming in with us. Thank you for coming, Mr. Beasley, showing up here. But other than that, that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Perkins. Commissioner Mobley.
Thank you to our staff. Thank you for Mary and Sarah Beth for their presentation, and thanks to Mr. Morrison for coming on board with us. And then again, I want to say, keep the Paul Mercer family in your prayers. He passed away on the 24th. He'll surely be blessed. So,
thank you, Commissioner Mobley. Commissioner Land?
I was going to keep it short, but the CARES dinner was at the IFAS Research Farm tonight, and we've all missed that, so I got a lot now. But first off, I'll second what Commissioner Mobley just said. Mr. Paul Mercer passed away Monday morning a week ago. Unexpected, massive heart attack. Here today. He worked for Jim Hinton Oil, where I work. There Friday, not there on Monday. So just keep that family in your prayers. That was unexpected, and they didn't see it coming. But anyway, I'd like to welcome Adam to the board, Mr. Morrison, also known as Adam. But
I've been called worse, I promise.
Welcome. Thank you, Mr. Scott, for doing an RFP on the courthouse to try to make that look better. I'm going to put the cart a little bit in front of the horse, but I believe it's public information to a degree. But the Tallahassee state budget is in its cooling off period, which takes 72 hours. But if there's people in this community that don't think that this board and this staff is working as hard as they possibly can to make our community better, I'm gonna give you some numbers, and if the numbers are off a little bit, I didn't pull them. Someone gave them to me, or that I asked to. But since 2017, this does not include any funding for the Sheriff's Department. They get their own funding directly sometimes through the county. But at any rate, since 2017, Suwannee County's received $3 million in appropriations, estimated $3 million. If the budget passes the governor's office, which it's passed both chambers, which will happen next week, Suwannee County in 2023 is going to get over $6 million. So if you don't think the guys on this board, the guys that work for this staff, are putting in the hours like all of us have just talked about at Rural County Days, at the different events, the phone calls to our legislators, the city of Live Oak, they're on board, do it. They're helping us. I consider them a community partner in a better ways than they have been in the past. I mean, guys, I just want to commend this board and our staff for working hard. And guys like North Florida Professional Services, I mean, some of this stuff we couldn't get without some direction and leadership from you and your staff. So thank y'all. Mr. Norris, I'm not going to name everybody, but there's some good things coming to our community. We're busy. I mean, Monday was the only, in Newberry, was the only reading of the USDA Farm Bill in the state of Florida. I was able to make it down to that. If you don't think the Farm Bill affects your house, you're sadly mistaken. I mean, there's so much federal funding that's incorporated in the USA Farm Bill. And it was just a reading and more of a listening session. That was very interesting, if you will. Today, 4 o'clock, Representative Kat Kamick was at the River Oak. River Oak is set to get $4 million in the state budget to add on to their building to allow them to teach more students than what they currently do. And we can't really take credit for that, but it's a community effort, and it's the participation. I mean, the River Oak executives were there at Rural County Days. There again, community partners. We talk about it. I think this board's living it and breathing it and got our sleeves rolled up and really working. That's about all I got. I'd also happy retirement to Mr. Eric Skeen. Anybody that works 42 years at one job for one employer is obviously a good guy and a good employee. So congratulations to him. I hope he enjoys his retirement. I'll wrap it up with that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Lynn. Commissioner Hale?
I think everything's been said. I just, again, appreciate our staff. We know we talk about them a lot. Did enjoy going to Tallahassee. I think last week, every day, like you say, we all had something to do every day. It was busy, but I'm just proud of what's going on. I mean, I know people get scared about growth, but I think as long as we keep it responsible growth is what I like to call it. Don't outgrow our britches, if you will. I think we'll be okay. But I do commend everybody. Mr. Scott and I have been working on stuff. Jimmy and I continue to work on stuff. And I know, like you say, it's a team effort. I mean, when we have some of these meetings and folks like Ronald Meeks comes in and these other agencies that we work with every day, I mean, no one has said no. They've all come to the table and said, well, let's see how we can get there. Let's see how, what can we do to help? And that goes with Tori and Mr. Gregg and everybody. So I just appreciate everybody. And as you were saying about your co-worker there, nothing's promised. I've told you guys we need to pray for the ones that we know and the ones we don't know, and remember why we're here. So I'll leave it with that.
Well said.
Thank you, Commissioner Hale. I think y'all took it all. That's no good to be chairman. You can't say nothing. They just say it all before it gets to you. But I'd like to thank Representative Schoaf, Senator Simon, and of course the staff that worked so hard on the appropriations, the commissioners for going over, Jimmy Norris, everybody, and Mike Grissom, our lobbyist. He done a lot of work too. It was a team effort for sure, and that really makes you proud when it is a team effort. So thanks to everybody that participated and for all of you for coming. Ribbon cutting at the airport. If any of you hadn't been at the airport lately, you should probably ride out there and look at it. It's pretty nice thing going out there, and it's well needed. Thanks, Mr. Adam. Glad to have you on board. Appreciate you being here. With that, I just need a motion to dismiss.
Mr. Chairman.
Sir.
We talked about the courthouse, but we didn't make a motion on doing the RFP for that. Just had a protocol. I think we need to make a motion if that's, you had consensus, but so we can do the RFP so we can actually get things done.
Mr. Chairman, I move to authorize staff to do an RFP on grounds maintenance at Suwannee County Courthouse.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Land, second by Commissioner Perkins. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0.
And that was Mandy keeping us straight.
Thank you, Mandy.
Thank you,
Mandy.
Okay. With that, I just need a motion to dismiss.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Perkins.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hale.
Aye. Aye.
All in
Y'all have
favor,
a
aye.
safe trip home.
Here we go.